What's going on, y'all? I'm Cam Best, and I'm here to talk to you about the newest card in Marvel Snap, Snowguard. Now, Snowguard is a 1/2 that transforms into in your hand between a card that disables locations and a card that doubles location effects for a turn. This is not a card I ever recommend you buy for 6,000 collector's tokens. Snowguard has shown no ability to impact the metagame and has generally been a kind of underwhelming release. So before we get anywhere with this, I'd like to say I do not recommend that you buy Snowguard. Normally, I buy every card that comes out. I bought Master Mold, I bought Negasonic. I'm not buying Snowguard. So that should tell you something about the level of quality of this card. Now, the thing I really wanted to talk about today, though, is not just Snowguard as a card, but what the implications of releasing a card like Snowguard are on the overall card collection ecosystem of Marvel Snap. Now, for those who are unaware, Marvel Snap's card collection ecosystem relies on putting cards from Series 5 down to Series 4, then Series 4 down to Series 3. Series 5 cards cost 6,000 tokens. Series 4 cards cost 3,000 tokens. Now, the average free-to-play player will acquire about 4,000 tokens per month free-to-play. So that gives you kind of an example of how the economy tends to work in Marvel Snap. Now, one major issue that this causes is that it causes people to pick and choose the Series 5 cards that they want. Now, this is not necessarily a downside per se, but it does mean that there's a lot of demand for what are the best Series 5 cards I can get. Is this card worth 6,000 tokens? Is probably the number one question that I get on stream. So when a card comes out that is absolutely not worth 6,000 tokens and is actually like borderline useless, like not necessarily saying Snowguard is the worst card in the game, but she's probably in like the bottom 25% of cards in the game. Obviously, her art is phenomenal. Her effects are phenomenal, but what she does as a unit is not something that you ever want to go out of your way to acquire for your deck. It's more something that is kind of okay if you have it lying around and you're like, I would like to solve a specific problem. Like one of the things she does do is, let you comfortably play into locations that you otherwise wouldn't be able to. Like, she does solve some problems. It's just she doesn't solve enough problems to justify her price slot. And I think that dynamic is sort of what I'm trying to hone in on when I say I want to talk about how Marvel Snap's card acquisition works. Because the way I see it, there's no real way for the devs to release a bad card into Series 5 without everyone being like, how do you expect us to buy this? Why would you expect us to buy this? Do you think we're stupid? Do you want us to spend 6,000 tokens on Snowguard? Like, that's the reaction this sort of stuff generates. Whether or not that's fair, I think is another conversation entirely. But fundamentally, what's happening is you're putting this card out there with a price tag of 6,000, and it is just dramatically not worth it. Now, the other thing that this highlights is I worry that there will be, because it is hard for them to release bad cards into Series 5, that suddenly, all the good cards, you got to put the good cards in Series 5, otherwise people won't be excited. Otherwise, people won't be excited. If you don't put good cards in Series 5, people aren't going to buy them. They're just going to make videos like this and shit all over them, right? And that's true, but it's also bad for the game, because that's how you start a cycle of power creep. And so my fundamental contention here is that the way Marvel Snap's collection system is designed seems to make two things inevitable. The first is power creep, because eventually they're going to realize, hey, nobody's buying this, so we should put good and exciting cards in Series 5 instead of releasing cards that might be cool but really aren't worth the tokens, right? So that leads to power creep. And I think the second thing is that because their patch schedule is so intermittent for real patches and not just OTAs, my worry is that something like what happened with Shuri could happen again, which is to say Shuri is amazing when she is released, one of the best cards in the game. One of the best cards in the game goes down to 3,000 tokens, one of the best cards in the game, and now as soon as she's hitting Series 3, she's going to get nerfed. And that is a really bad spot for the company to put themselves in. Because a bunch of people will see that and be like, well, yeah, you're just trying to milk people. All the pay-to-win players get Shuri. And I think that really sucks because, A, I don't want to be a pay to win player. I don't want to be winning because I spent more money than you. I want to be winning because I'm better than you. I don't want to be winning because I bought the card that beat you up. That sucks. And I think too, the other thing that this does is I'm willing to believe that this is a normal and natural consequence, right? Like of being measured with balance. Sure, he was, really good, but wasn't ever really the best deck until about 6 weeks ago because other decks were beating it, right? So maybe it didn't need a nerf before then. But here's the thing. If you overshoot it on a Series 5 card, and then suddenly there are all these underlying things going into your decision other than balance, right? People spent 6,000 tokens on this. We don't want to over nerf it. Right, like these sort of underlying, I guess you'd call them like interceding factors, right? Things that shouldn't be influencing balance decisions, but might be. And I can't say for sure if they are influencing balance decisions. I have no insight there. But the fact that these factors exist is a bad thing for the game. The fact that the incentives for the devs would be release a really good card, and then if you have to tone it down about 5 or 6 weeks. The earliest nerfs we've ever gotten on like these cards were Zabu and Surfer, was like 5 weeks out for Zabu. And so the incentives are, release a really good card, then tone it down. That's a really bad pattern to get into. And I think fundamentally what this points to is the fragility of Marvel Snap's token economy. This is not a system that can be sustained, in my opinion. The fact that this is the only way new cards enter the ecosystem is something that I think needs to change. I don't know what that means in terms of how it should change. I remember back in the beta, we all thought cards would just go into Series 3 after the Battle Pass. That is out the window now. There was like, in the beta, the idea was the Battle Pass would happen, then there'd be a gap month, and then it would go into Series 3. That has obviously gone out the window now. I feel like people are putting up with spending a lot more money than they should be in terms of the returns. And I basically worry about the sustainability of this model. I would like to see cards being released into Series 3. I would like to see maybe a significant downgrade in the price of Series 5 cards, or even some other things. In terms of solutions, I would think, drop Series 5 cards to 5,000 and make Series 5 just the big bads. That would go a long way. But now that they've instead upped the amount of tokens you receive, it makes it harder to actually fix this stuff, right? By putting a band-aid over the system by giving you more tokens, it makes it harder, ironically, to actually fix these underlying issues. So, to sum up, I think that Snowguard represents a big problem for Marvel Snap going forward. The disinterest with this card, the fact that like maybe she's like a side grade to a couple of free-to-play cards. The issue is they should be able to release cards that are bad. Second Dinner should be able to do that. But the fact that they're priced at premium amounts means that they are unable to release cards that are bad. And this causes A, a potential for power creep, and B, the fact that they can't release cards that are bad sucks, because like 4 months from now, if you open Snowguard in Pool 3, it doesn't suck. It's like kind of fine. It's like, you don't hate it. It's not great, but like it's cool. And this sort of makes me wonder about like, is there any better way to do this? Because I think that there has to be a better way to manage this, and I would really like to see, any kind of change along these lines. So if you have an idea for how to fix these underlying issues, not just make everything cheaper, because, that should happen, but also how do we remove the incentives that create power creep? How do we remove the incentives that make people think that it sucks so bad when they release a bad card? How do we make it safe for Second Dinner to release bad cards and thus prevent power creep? That's basically what I'd like to know. So if you have any thoughts on that, let me know in the comments. As always, I'm KM Best. Thank you so much. I will see you next time.